It's another video from the Weiss Schwarz Club. You got Myth, you got Kaichou over there.
Hey guys.
So, with SpringFest coming up in, 1 week as of the time that we're recording this, by the time that the videos are uploaded, it should be SpringFest time frame.
Yep.
Kaichou and I are unable to go to the one that'll be in California, but we decided that to compensate for that, we decided what would happen if we were playing as our own teams, and we both picked 3 decks in English and decided to play out a show match for you guys. So here it is, the third of our show matches. So, just to kind of cover the quick ground rules, this will be a best of 3, unlike the best of 5 for the Assault Lily show match. This will be where each match will be one single deck. We'll play all 3 matches regardless to simulate a round of the Swiss or a top cut situation. So you won't have to worry about Kaichou wins the first 2 games, so there will be no third fight. You'll get a chance to see all 3 matches, just get a little insight into a couple of the matchups and stuff. So yeah, 3 different Neo Standard titles from each of our groups. We both picked what we had available to each other. We didn't necessarily pick the 3 most meta or the 3 most easily accessible sets. We kind of had a bit of a discussion, I would say, about what sets we believed would go into which seed. So let's just get into that discussion then, Kaichou. So talking about the
Yeah.
seed A, B, and C, you know.
I think the main contender, because everyone's talking about, is the Mishoku. The set just came out. The set is also very strong in what it does. Being able to contest board and how your level 1 combo is also your standby target, so it's like a 2-in-1 package. Kind of convenient, unlike Slime, where your level 1 is a combo. It doesn't plus, but it gives you Twin Drive to trigger more standbys, which may not always be reliable. So I think that would be somewhat an A if people are trying to play just meta against meta for A. B decks or CP decks can probably be, well, it could be Slime. It could also be what are the decks? It could also be, what's the Quince? Quince is also not a bad contender. The Ichika top end is also pretty strong.
I would say that kind of the name of, if you're kind of going for getting to that top 8 cut, you're definitely planning on, more likely than not, your AAC is your anchor, basically, where they're playing the most optimized, the most meta deck more often than not. If they're
Yeah,
not playing the meta deck, then it'd probably be a deck that could maybe tech against the meta. So
yeah, anti-meta deck.
for what Kaicho was saying about Mishoku, I expect a lot of Mishoku players as well. Alternatively, if it's not Mishoku, I anticipate the other. I wouldn't say they're the power decks, but it's they recently got nerfed between both Kaguya and Data Live, but I still think a lot of people are gonna be trying to play that set and still trying to demonstrate some level of skill with it. It, just because it's been hit by the new ban list doesn't necessarily mean it's 100% gutted. This is kind of that opportunity to demonstrate that it's pretty strong still, in my opinion. So there's that.
Yeah, they lost a few consistencies, zeros, but since the set has many other options, especially for Dab or Data Bullet coming out, you have that support, the 8 choice deck maybe. You can even play choice standby, and then Kaguya obviously has a lot of good zeros that weren't played because of the good zeros that were on the ban list, but now they have a chance to be shown because of the ban list.
Yep. And then I would say that your B is kind of like that, kind of in my mind, A kind of stood for meta or anti-meta types, and then B kind of stands for that it's that middle of the line, you don't care too much about what you're playing into because the deck is pretty autonomous, pretty solid. You don't care about getting stomped by a meta deck, but you also have a deck that's strong enough to win against the more off meta deck. So sets like Sword Art, for example, sets like Ruby,
Yeah,
Seven Deadly Sins, these type of sets that have very solid compositions, but you don't expect them to like stomp the meta, the high tier super echelon decks, but you expect that if someone tries to cheese at seat B, then you could probably get the win more often than not.
Yeah.
And then to round out your composition, like seat C is all. I wouldn't say it's more cheese oriented, but it's like you need kind of a dark horse, in my opinion. You need that deck who can like kind of just sneak a win or two, because in order to get the collective win, you need to win 2 out of 3 of your games. And assuming that the two meta decks are going to be a 50-50, you kind of need something to counterbalance the B deck more often than not, because the B deck is going to be a blindable, safe option. You need something that can help get you that game 3 win, basically.
Yeah. So C is more like flex type deck. It's something that people like played back then. Something like Bane Dream, like the deck or the set itself isn't too good, but also not too bad because of new Bane Dream's support. Chuchu Pareo that helps you with a little bit of your mid game. Gotten a lot better. Other sets like it could be like you can play Sunshine. Sunshine now actually is pretty good, just because since Kaguya's level 0 game, so now Sunshine is able to just play with their cards, and then Chika Yo always a good combo.
Yep. So like that's kind of the logic that we kind of go with. So let's just go ahead and go into our individual lineups. So for our CA matchup, we're gonna have Kaichou playing Kaguya, and then I'll be playing Data Live. So Kaichou, you want to kind of talk about like with the ban list kind of changing, what adjustments you made and why you think that this deck could still. I don't know if it's like as strong as it was pre-nerf, obviously, but does it still have a shot in your opinion, basically?
Yeah, so I opted to go for the green Milky Homes quote unquote packaged with the event style. Since with the nerf, Kaguya's low 0 game did get a little bit weaker. Granted, we still have the Kaguya Bomb, Ishigami Runner. Those cards are still pretty solid. I opted for this one because I think playing the 3-5 counter event could be potentially good against the standby matchups, since specifically against Mushoku, the errors are only 7-5. If they standby Gizling, which they probably will, be 8-5. If you have a Kaguya level 1 common board with level assist, you're also 5-5, you can counter a 3-5 to 9k. Maybe it matters if you don't have assist, you can counter it as 8-5, it ties, which is fine because their card doesn't have hand encore. So you can take the 1-for-1 trade and the event also lets you combo with the Miyuki to pay 1 to Akatsuki if a climax gets, or if a card gets put into your level, since the event does force you to put climax because it is an oversized counter. So if you're playing for defense, it is a good option. I still think Kaguya is pretty strong as long as you get out of the level 0, because that's what they hit. So as long as you get out of level 0, your deck is pretty much the same. Even if you're playing like the normal 4-4 deck, I just opted for this one because I wanted to play with the event, play with the wall strategy.
Yep. So you kind of went for a bit of a defensive oriented adjustment. So for me, I chose to play the choice standby list. I think that the ban list mainly struck down the 8 standby, although there are obviously still other options, like Kaicho was talking about. The new 8 choice lineup in Data Bullet is an option, but this is kind of my preferred list. It kind of balances the ability to have an even more aggressive lineup now that you can play cards such as the 1-1 Miku from Fujimi. You can play more around like just stomping in that early game where you can like reload your hand with Kotori combo, but then you hit a standby and you also get the added benefit of that defensive prowess that standby has always been known for. You're less like incentivized to like want to trigger or slam standbys because you do want to be like amassing just raw value. So you have more offensive tools, but you still have that like backup plan of small hints of defense. It's just not as ingrained into the game plan now. All right. And then moving on to our Seat B decks, we got Kaichou's Ruby list, and then we got Sword Art. So, kind of as we discussed a little bit, this is kind of your blind pick deck. These are the decks that you can play pretty safely into meta decks, and you can make it work, but you're not expected to like stomp in the meta matchup, but you are kind of safe enough to win any like cheese matchup. So if you want to kind of like talk about why you went for a pretty interesting like 4-1-3 lineup, unless that's an
Oh no,
oversight.
I opted to play 4-1-3. Yeah,
Okay.
so standard 4-4 deck. We've seen Door standby, Choice standby, just 4-4. We also seen 8 Door, which I've seen people play at Bro. I personally don't like the 8 Door build, or I just don't like the Minami combo at level 1. Just because against standby, sometimes it's a little hard to get a triple reverse, even though the Minami does scale into each other. The choice combo has the one added benefit is you only need one reverse, and that one card will get huge because John is able to pump power. That's why I went for choice. Uh, Standby, we just play it because the combo is pretty non-interactive. It gets rid of standby targets if you're able to get it out at 2. If not, it works at 3 too. I opted for 1 Door because I don't want to be triggering standby in this deck. I think just playing like because I don't play that many 2/2 targets anyways, so I opted to play force, or I opted to like just all in on the John combo. Maybe get multiple turns at level 1 combo, play choice every turn, and maybe hit a standby. It works. So I also didn't want to play an extra choice because I value salvaging like my level 0 cards, my level 1 cards, which is why the 1 Door was there.
One of the cool things that Ruby, when that set got announced, that we noticed was that its zero game is like incredibly diverse. Like you have stuff like the Sun Wukong, you have Neon Cat, you have James Ironwood, like probably one of the better profiles up there. Like your level zero game is just so diverse, and being able to have the ability to salvage it if you do end up triggering that gate does add a pretty cool level of like added benefit to you because like you said, right, you're not playing for the standby anymore. Now you're just playing to all in on like get my John combos set up for next turn. Maybe I get a second John combo off situation.
Yeah.
And then for me, I decided to play Alicization, the standard 4-2-2 deck. I guess a small adjustment that I made is that I wanted to implement the dog counter, the 3-1 event that heals and gives 2-5. So, kind of the main idea of what I wanted to do is that rather than rely on War of the Underworld to try and kill the opponent, I wanted to set up situations where the opponent can get whittled down by like both the Sinon combo with Musashi's, with the Misakuro Alice from the Alicization trial deck, because your early game is like, or your mid game is really powerful with the level 1 and the level 2 combos being really strong. So by the time you get to the end game, the idea is that the opponent should be like really bleeding out for resources. So you don't need to like go over the top to kill them necessarily. You do have that benefit, which is why I do play a single copy of it just in case. But the core part of your gameplay is more about like finishing your opponent through just like hit confirmations rather than like a blowout victory. You know, like your level 3 game is basically I'm gonna sit here for as long as possible and heal until you get to a point where I'm just confident enough to get the win. You know.
Yeah.
And then rounding out, we have Seat C. We have 8 choice slime for a Kaichou, and then we have a 8 gate rent a girlfriend. So uh, if you haven't watched our first show match where we did have an exhibition featuring the 8 choice slime and the gate standby ruby, Kaichou has a lot of insight for having played both decks for that matchup. So you want to kind of talk about like the differences between your list versus what the other lists might be playing.
Yeah, so as we know, CC, most likely you're gonna be playing against some other like decks that may not be up to the meta. It could be people's own personal decks that they like playing. They have connections to. So I just know Slime. I think Slime, the 8 choice finisher, is like insane, right? That's like the only reason you would play the 8 choice deck because of that finisher. The level 1 combo was kind of sad. It's just generic salvage, but the condition is like too hefty to play. But as long as you're able to set up for the choice finisher 3-2 Rimuru, everything should be okay. So I personally, this deck is a little bit more lower budget than as you see with the meta builds of Slime, where they play like the chasers.
The
So
Fukas.
yeah, the Fuka, the Search Ricky from first set, like those cards, pretty expensive now, but they did get reprinted, so it wasn't too bad. But I still just opted to play for this. It's something I had because I never really bought too much in the Slime. There's a lot of like different cards I played Zero, just like the Rickies. There are 2 types of Ricky. So you have a salvage Ricky, and then you have a on reverse Ricky that lets you check through out a character. That gives you added mill. I played the Ellen Brainstormer and 1 copy of the Search Brainstormer. The Ellen Brainstormer is really good at milling through your deck to give you search target or salvage targets, and also lets you grab climaxes with the added benefit of when you trigger a climax, you can give 1k to one of your characters, which may matter in some matchup because your combo is only 6-5. So you can trigger to 7-5, maybe tie a standby target. Like it works out. There are certain cards you definitely I would cut out if I had the expensive cards. Like I would just switch out the Red Rimuru Riki for Fukas and then play Search Riki instead of the Shuna Rikis just to help with the mill causes mill instead of having to like pay 1 stock and then taking the damage every time I want to mill. For level 3, I opted for playing the Ranga Xion package. Just I think that with the standby, these cards are able to help beat over those cards because Xion does get really big, and she does maybe let you stabilize. But I don't want to be playing that at level 2 since our top end remove is the end goal, which requires like 8 stock, 6 if you believe you're gonna trigger some choices, which you probably will, and having old man that lets you grab your climaxes or the combo when needed. So it's just an option out there. You can most likely just choice those targets, like the Ranga, it's okay to be choiced. Or you can just level a copy since this deck does not play that many blue cards. So those are some options. And definitely, if I own like better cards or better quality cards, you could definitely swap them out. That's what I chose to play.
Yep. And then rounding out, I chose to play Rent a Girlfriend, 8 gates, Chizuru focus, but I think that this is kind of leaning into what I was talking about earlier. Your Seat C deck is most likely your most volatile deck, so this is a type of deck where it can absolutely run away with the game just completely out of nowhere, and it's also the deck that you don't expect to necessarily like confirm your win, right? Like this deck can get trounced by pretty much any other deck on any given day, but you play. I chose to play Rental Girlfriend mainly because of the volatility of what it can do. Like it's a consistent deck that has potential to just rush the opponent. Kind of consider it a bit of a McDonald's strategy, is what I like to call it. Just serving up a lot of damage in a really short burst, just going completely face, not really caring about what happens to my board, you know. So it's kind of like that. I think that of the possible Rent a Girlfriend setups, you could play Sumi standby into the Chizuru if you wanted to. That deck has potential to stabilize you really well in the mid game once you get your first Sumi combo, assuming that you get 4 cards off that combo. But for me, I chose the Gate level 1 combo because you have a dedicated Brainstorm that also adds Soul when you slam down the gate, which allows you to kind of accelerate the game state, make it more volatile, make it a lot more threatening. So, yeah. Any closing thoughts before we get into the show match here, Kaichou?
No, I think we talked about the decks pretty much all of it.
But yeah, all right. So go ahead and stay tuned, guys. We're gonna be going through each of the matches. So catch you guys later.
Bye.